Can you hear me out there? Isn't everybody sick of saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Would you all please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Here.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Here.
Councilman Dooley?
Here.
Councilman Marcotte?
Here.
Supervisor Colavita?
Here. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have the first matter on our agenda is a public hearing. It's a proposed amendment to local law number 5 of 2000, the zoning law of the town of Eastchester, amended by local law number 1 of 2021 to repeal the residency preference, section 12H, paragraph 27, subparagraph A, subparagraph E, and to amend section 12H 27BA to remove the preference, the reference to such preferences. And we talked a little bit about this last time. This is a condition of our settlement where we're removing the resident preferences for the senior housing special permit category. So with that, I'll make a motion to open up the public hearing. Ask for a second, please.
Second.
Please call the roll on opening public hearing.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Anyone here to speak? There being none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing. Ask for a second.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next, I guess, inasmuch as this is a zoning amendment, we need to go through the secret process. So we need, I guess, a resolution to declare ourselves lead agency. Is that correct, Mr. Rader?
Yes, Supervisor. I prepared a resolution, and it is as follows. The first resolution will be declaring the town board as lead agency and also to adopt the negative declaration. And it reads as follows. Whereas the town board of the town of Eastchester is the duly elected legislative body of the town of Eastchester and is authorized to adopt amendments to the zoning law of the town of Eastchester, and whereas at the town board meeting on January 18, 2022, local law number 1 of 2022 was introduced to the town board to amend the town zoning law to remove the residency preferences from the senior housing development special permit use, and further, whereas the review and adoption of the local law is an unlisted action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, which is known as SECRA, and the town board is the only involved agency in the SECRA review of this local law, and whereas the town board has received and reviewed a short environmental assessment form known as the EAF, which is related to this local law, and further, whereas the local law and the EAF were referred to the Westchester County Planning Board pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 239M and Section 277.61 of the Westchester County Administrative Code, and whereas by letter which I sent to them was dated January 31st, 2022, the County Planning Board advised the town of its support for the repeal of the residency preferences. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the town board, as the only involved agency in the secret review of this local law, hereby declares itself as lead agency for the review of this action under SECRA, and it be further resolved that the town board hereby adopts a negative declaration of environmental significance for the adoption of the local law pursuant to the SECRA based on the information and the reasons that have been stated in the EAF Parts 1, 2, and 3, which have been reviewed by the town board and are hereby incorporated herein, and authorizes the town supervisor, or his designated agent to execute the environmental EAF form Part 3 and to file the negative declaration in accordance with the applicable provisions of the law. And be it further resolved that the town board authorizes the town supervisor as designated agent to take further steps as may be necessary to discharge the town board's responsibilities as lead agency.
All right. I'll move that without repeating it and ask for a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Okay, then we need a motion and a second on the law itself. I'll make the motion. Ask for a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next, I have the opportunity to address the board on agenda
If I
item.
can, I have
sorry.
to do the resolution on this.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Okay, so as to the adoption of the local law, number 1 of 2022. The town of Eastchester is the duly elected body of the town of Eastchester and is authorized to adopt amendments to the zoning law of the town of Eastchester. And whereas at the town board meeting of January 18th, local law number 1 of 2022 was introduced to the town board to amend the town zoning law to remove the residency preferences from the senior housing development special permit use. Whereas on January 24th, 2022, the text of local law number 1 of 2022 and its supporting EAF were referred to the Westchester County Board pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 239 and Section 277.61 of the Westchester County Administrative Code. And whereas by letter dated January 31st, 2022, the Westchester County Planning Board advised the town of its support for the repeal of the residency preferences. And whereas by the resolution of even date herewith, the town board declared itself lead agency in the secret review process under local law number 1 of 2022, and as I stated, has adopted a negative declaration, thereby concluding the secret review of this action. And whereas on February 15th, a properly noticed public hearing was held to consider the adoption of local law number 1 of 2022, whereas all those who wish to comment on local law 1, 2022, the public hearing were afforded the opportunity to do so, and the public hearing was therefore closed. Now therefore, based on all the information before the board, be it resolved that the town board adopts local law number 1 of 2022, and be it further resolved that the town clerk shall enter local law number 1, 2022 in the minutes of this meeting, and shall cause the local law to be filed with the New York State Department of, the Department of State, and shall take all other actions necessary to comply with all the notices and filing requirements of this law.
All right, well, I think we moved that already, but let's move it in a more comprehensive manner. I'll make the motion to re-adopt that in accordance with the resolution terms. Someone want to second that?
Second.
And also let the record reflect that we have received no emails and no one appeared to speak regarding this matter. So, with that being said, with our motion and second, would you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Now we have the opportunity to address the board on agenda items. All right, there being no one asking to do so, we have approval of the minutes of the February 1st, 2022 Town Board meeting. Any modifications or amendments?
I'll move it.
Okay, I'll second same. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next, we have reports of departments, boards, and commissions. The Police Department report, Chief Bonci. We can receive your monthly report for January of 2022 regarding parking summonses and B&T and the like. Also, we have the detective report, and we have our statement of accounts. Anything further, Chief?
Yeah, I have an annual little summary of our annual report activity.
Thank you.
I'll just go over
Sure.
Thank you.
everybody. The only thing before I start, I want to just mention is Officer Jafer Chacon was sent to DARE instructor school, and he was recognized as he got the award for excellence as the best overall student in the class. So I want to recognize him. He's going to be one of our new DARE officers. When police officer Joe Pegna was promoted to sergeant, left an opening there, so he was chosen to be the next DARE officer. So he really represented the department well. So I just wanted to recognize him for that. Just some supplemental activity for 2021. We had 7,108 calls for service, 1,430 medical aided, 380 car accidents, and we issued 17,934 parking summonses, 4,380 move-in violations, and 44 town ordinance violations. In the Detective Bureau, we had 350 arrests total for the department and 607 detective investigations. We maintained a school resource officer in both Tuckahoe and Eastchester schools. We reestablished our school check-ins where members check into the various schools throughout the day at random times. And a police officer recruitment program for the Westchester County. Officer Jafer Chacon participated in the Westchester County Minority Recruitment Initiative. That was the video recruitment that the county did to try to, to get people to take the police test. Our Traffic and Advisory Board, Lieutenant Bernstein participated in that. And in school safety, the department participated in and critiqued several announced and unannounced lockdown drills. There's a list of community activities that we did, the torch run, pizza with a cop, among some of the highlights. There's a whole list there. In the training department, we participated in Westchester County Police Academy, Unified In-Service, which was a 3-day, 21 hours of training, and every officer went through that. And it's designed to meet the DCJS requirements for training. And additionally, each supervisor gets a 7-hour block of training included in that. In our field training program, we trained some new officers in field training, and we had one of our sergeants take over the program and revamp it, and so that we can enhance that field training of recruits. All of our department members participated in active shooting trainer, along with Tuckahoe and Bronxville Police at Concordia College. Lieutenant Rosenberg organized that and oversaw that, so we did a good job, and we try to do that every year so that we can work with Tuckahoe and Bronxville and be prepared for those situations should they arise. Some of the specialized training, we have a crisis negotiation, de-escalation instructors, less lethal instructors, crisis intervention instructors. All our department members went through the anti-harassment training, and 2 officers went to basic SWAT school, bicycle patrol school, and every officer in the department was retrained and issued new naloxone for overdose prevention. We have a drone program now, so we use that drone at the special events, and we've certified some officers in the use there. Our surveillance camera LPR system, we have 3 cameras with LPR readers installed at sites throughout the town. Over last year, Lieutenant Rosenberg also oversaw the implementation of that program. Our radio system replacement, we are almost at the finish line there of going to the MTA system. I've talked about it at a couple of meetings, so that's going to be a real positive, enhancement of the radio system. Like, we always had some of those dead spots. We've talked about the replacement, and this seems like it's going to be a great, a great thing for the department to get rid of those dead spots and really make the radio system work well. Body-worn cameras, they've been delivered, they're installed. We have so we're very close to having them into the patrol division also. Our state accreditation, we maintain compliance with all our standards. We participate in a mutual aid drill, zone-wide, which was throughout the county. We continued our random drug testing throughout the year. In the area of grants, we had our ERU grant, our Bulletproof Vest Partnership grant, and our Buckle Up New York grant, which is a seatbelt enforcement. And those are just some of the highlights of the good work that the members of the department do throughout the year. I'd just like to recognize, obviously, without good supervision, good men and women in the street, we wouldn't be able to achieve all these things. So I think it's pretty notable how much has gotten accomplished throughout the year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Thank you, Chief.
Questions, anything? Yeah.
This is excellent, thank you. Thank you to all the men and women on the department for all that they do, 24 hours a day for us, 365 days a year. This is remarkable, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. Yeah, I echo what Luigi just said about, and you guys do a great job. Just on another note, are we still seeing the cars being broken into or, vandalized and?
Yeah, I know. You had contacted me. We did over the weekend have 2 cars stolen. And, it's people leaving fobs in the car. They walk down. There's certain brands of cars, too, which are the more expensive cars. And when you take your key fob out of the car, the mirrors retract. So they drive down the street, if the mirrors aren't retracted, it means your fob's in the car, so people can go and just, those are the types of thefts we're seeing. Again, they are throughout the county, we get hit sometimes on one weekend. We haven't had a lot of it, but we do get hit, on various, days, and usually when we get hit, Scarsdale gets hit, Bronxville gets hit, and then another day it's in the north end of the, and, I've spoken about it before. A lot of the car thefts are repeat offenders. You let them out, they go back, they do it again, and there's, some of the bail reform and, has really impacted those types of crimes. They're young kids. A lot of them are from Connecticut. When we see different groups, and they come and they hit, with 3 or 4 people, they hit an area, 20, 25 cars, and if the cars are locked, they just keep walking. They don't break into cars, they don't break windows to get in. They don't, try to break into the car to steal the car. They go in there, they push the button if the fob is in the car. And, we've all been here at meetings and we say it every month, it seems like, and people still leave, their keys in the car, and there's nothing, you try your best to educate, but that would really be a deterrent to
Are they also targeting mailboxes,
that would,
or was that isolated?
that was an isolated
Yeah,
incident.
okay.
We did have some cases that, last month throughout Westchester County, there was a check washing that went on. And they're investigating it, and it's unknown if it was in the bank, if it was in the post office, where they took people's checks and they made copies and signed, it's called check washing. And it doesn't appear that they were taken out of people's mailboxes. It does seem like it was, maybe at a different level. But that was kind of a little county-wide in one little, one spat of incidents there,
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Law Department, Mr. Rader?
Yes, okay, I have a resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute and deliver a license agreement made between the town of Eastchester and Permitium LLC, which will provide customers with an online vital records request service. This will be, it's going to be a one-year agreement which will automatically agree on renewal, but I also put a provision in there that allows us to cancel in case we're not satisfied with them. And there's no cost to the town. It'll be a cost, I believe, a $4 transaction cost that will be sent to the applicant or the customer who seeks the record, so.
Yeah, in essence, we're just providing this as a convenience so people can get vital records online. So if you need a copy of a death certificate or marriage certificate, you can do that online, or you can come in and pay, however you want to work it, but just another step of convenience. Linda, anything further to add?
No, and either way, the town will receive $10 per copy.
There you go. Thank you. Okay, so I'll move this. Ask for a second, please.
Second.
All right, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte? Aye. Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next is a late flying item. Mr. Ray, do you want to introduce it?
Yeah, sure. I have a resolution by the Eastchester Town Board setting forth its opposition to the proposed accessory dwelling unit law and also the Part E Transit-Oriented Development Act, which would basically be introduced by the New York Senate, which would supersede local zoning as it relates to the residential zoning districts and land use of the town.
Yeah, I just want to make some comments about this before we take any action. This has been in the paper a little bit, not as much, I think, as it should be. It's a very significant action taken by the state. And basically, Governor Hochul has proposed amending state law to impose a statewide land use unfunded mandate requiring every city, village, and towns like Eastchester to authorize the creation of at least one accessory dwelling unit, ADU, per residential lot, and provide standards for structural requirements for ADUs that do not unreasonably restrict the creation of said ADUs. Furthermore, the ability of a local government to impose parking requirements and other requirements for these ADUs would be severely restricted. In essence, what's happening is they're permitting the construction or within the building, the conversion of an accessory apartment in any residential property, any, including one families. The governor's proposed budget would impose uniform transit-oriented development, or a TOD, which is also an unfunded mandate, by requiring cities, villages, and towns to permit development of at least 25 units per acre on any residentially zoned or unzoned land located within a half a mile of any train track or bus stop. So, in essence, what this is if you own an acre near a train station, you can take down your home and you have the right to build a 25-unit structure, 25 units, okay, where it used to be a single-family house. Cities, villages, and towns would not be permitted to enact regulations that effectively prevent the development of 25 dwelling units per acre. Moreover, cities, villages, and towns would be required to amend their comprehensive plans and zoning codes to conform to this density requirement. So we would have to change our development plans, our comprehensive plan, and our zoning code. And as people probably are aware, the town, villages, and cities' autonomy over their zoning is a core fundamental constitutional principle, which has been carved out by the state legislature. These blunt, one-size-fits-all use mandates, which are not germane to a state budget. In other words, the way people found out about this was all contained within the state budget. It wasn't a standalone law. It was buried in the state budget, which is, in my opinion, not at all transparent for such a thing, such an impactful law that will change the way we live in this area and all throughout the state. So that it being hidden in a budget, this is the first of its kind and in direct contravention to the state's long-held approach of locally determined land use planning. This is an erosion of home rule zoning powers and likely to result in disjointed development that is completely out of character with the community's desires. Remember, in mature towns like the town of Eastchester, every parcel is already developed. This isn't something like a planning tool for future growth. This is just wedging in apartments anywhere you can. You can build a little shed in your backyard, and okay, you can have an apartment in there. That's what this boils down to. Forcing these standards on already established communities without taking into consideration the multiple impacts such an abrupt and massive change would have on the town is likely to result in incongruous development harmful to the community at large. ADU and TOD regulations imposed from the state capitol will substantially strain municipal services and infrastructure, including streets, sidewalks, and water and sewer systems. All right, think about it. If you have all these extra units, where are they all going to park? They're all going to park on streets, okay? They're going to park perhaps in on people's property, but if we have a parking problem now, this will only be exacerbated with another 9,000 units in the town. Think about the power supply issues. We just got through a moratorium with Con Edison about adding natural gas service for heat in people's homes. Are we now to go to propane exclusively? Think about all the propane tanks that are going to be stored, going to be tapped to heat these premises, and all the accidents that happen routinely with propane. Not that, it's not the most dangerous thing in the world, but in using this manner, it's going to be a problem. School enrollment. Think about that. Think about all the kids that will be introduced into the local school districts, which are presently overcrowded as we speak. As an example, on the Todd, let's say Leawood Country Club decided that it didn't want to be a club anymore. They have approximately 90 acres there. So multiply that number times 25, and that's how many units you'll have in that particular location. Think of the impact that would have on sewer, on water pressure, on the facility going in across the street, the impact on the schools. There will be thousands of kids introduced into the school district. Also, the impact it would have on fire suppression, On EVAC, all these additional features are all not considered. It's just a way to wedge more people into more crowded space. I see Frank Sweeney has joined us. Think about all the cable lines that'll be hanging when all those cable services get cut, right? I mean, it's the stuff nobody's thinking about. They're just saying, okay, let's just jam it down every town's throat, every village's throat, force this to happen. Anyway, just continuing, I want to just make some further comments. Again, the key thing here is that this is not being done in conjunction with New York's established home rule law and local land use planning process. We have worked so hard to have controlled and orderly growth in the town of Eastchester exercised by zoning. That's why you don't have a factory next to a warehouse, next to a house, next to a church, next to a school, next to an apartment building. That's what you have in other places in this country, but not here. We've worked very hard to have a comprehensive plan of growth. This would, in essence, eradicate all of that. Local government officials dedicate significant resources to planning for demographic changes that will impact the services provided to their communities. These proposed ADUs and TODs mandates, unfunded mandates, are substantial and will likely increase residential units by orders of magnitude beyond what municipalities are planning for and prepared to accommodate. A far better approach would be for the state to facilitate informed local decision-making, including, God forbid, a draft model. Do something for us here. Instead of saying you have to do it, give us a model. Give us an ordinance. How about give us some funding to try to figure this out, okay? Analysis of the impacts, adopting such policies, training for local land use officials, or any kind of funding to implement this. I mean, these, if you read the actual law, and I have, it's far worse than I'm making it seem. We have units there that can be rented for 60 days. The town has no way, you can't charge anyone to do this. You can't adjust your taxes. You can't regulate it in any manner. This is just basically a free-for-all, okay? A total free-for-all. Anyway, the proposals advanced by the governor's executive budget fail to do any of what I just mentioned. Instead, they just impose a top-down, unfunded, and frankly poorly thought-through mandate that ignores New York's sacrosanct tradition of community-based land use decisions. There'll be no participation at a planning board meeting or anything like that, or a zoning board meeting for any of this stuff, okay? You don't have any say in the matter. For all of these reasons, I asked the town attorney to prepare a resolution for this particular matter. And I know that many, many other towns and villages and cities in Westchester County are also doing the same thing we're doing. And there's been a surge to prepare resolutions, promptly. That's why we made this a late-flying item rather than wait for another couple of weeks, because everybody's pulling together these to submit them to Senator Harkin, who is in Westchester County, and I'm shocked that he would be the author of this half-baked, consequential plan that's going to be devastating for any of these areas. I mean, the TODs alone, if you know Eastchester, we have the train track running right alongside, and a half a mile in is practically, half the town. So to have, thousands of units pop up there is just insanity. There are better ways to do things. So with that being said, I want to just turn to the resolution we have prepared to read a little bit of its content, and without getting into the introductions, which would be repetitive, we are basically considering this ADU and TOD law. If adopted, it would override local zoning and municipal home rule, permitting accessory apartments as of right with minimal regulation in all residential districts, including multifamily districts, and on any lot, regardless of its zoning with an existing residential use. And whereas the proposed law would prohibit municipalities' ability to craft specific regulations while considering the impacts on the locality's environment, infrastructure, parking, school enrollment, police and fire departments, ambulance corps within its borders, and whereas in not considering these impacts specific to the local municipality, the legislation will have a far-reaching negative effect impacting health, safety, quality of life of the residents of the town of Eastchester. And whereas a one-size-fits-all requirement encroaches on the ability of every New Yorker to participate in his local planning and zoning in the community in which he lives or she lives, and whereas the proposed legislation causes additional concerns regarding conversions of hotel and offices to residential use as of right. I probably should have spent a little bit of time on that, where they're permitting hotels and office buildings to convert to residential use, which would be catastrophic. In any event, the resolution says, be it further resolved that the town of Eastchester urges the governor of the state of New York and the New York legislature to preserve and protect municipal home rule and local zoning powers and not to pass the AUD law and transit-oriented development which is contained therein. So that is our resolution. Would any board members care to further comment? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Supervisor, for bringing this to the forefront. I commend you on that. And I just wanted to add a few things, because I'm not really sure what Senator Harkin was thinking or what the actual genesis of this legislation is or was. You know, when you read some of the bodies of work about the legislation, and we know we have, you know, significant legislative wordsmiths in Albany, they speak of this as if it's a good thing, as if it's going to aid, you know, our seniors to age in place. It's going to help people to be able to afford their rent and things of that nature. And it just seems to me that New York is completely going in the wrong direction, because I think if they want to accomplish those things, and if they really cared about our seniors aging in place and people being able to afford rents in homes, they would deliver meaningful and significant tax relief. That's what they need to do. Tax relief will bring down rents. You bring down taxes, people can afford to buy homes, you know, and things such as that. So I will be joining my colleagues in government in opposing this and sending a strong message to Albany. You know, Tuckahoe, one of the densest villages in Westchester County, Lower Westchester, in fact, is so incredibly dense. I just can't even imagine something of this nature being implemented and moving forward. So, and I know, I think Danny Lang, Trustee Lang, is working on a resolution that he's going to submit to the board, so kudos to him. I just wanted to make a record and say that I will be fully in support of this.
It's a very valid point, and even in Bronxville, for that matter, where you have large lots and large homes.
Yep.
Take a home down, build a 25-unit building in the middle of a residential neighborhood. That'll go over real well. Anyone else? Lou? Excuse me.
Like Sheila said, you know, thank you for crafting this. There certainly is a lot that the state could do to help with the tax burden, and they simply cannot do it. I guess they don't know how to do it, and this is just, you know, more proof of that. When you look at it, you know, I think we need some more business people up in the state legislature there to recognize that increase in taxes only hurts the population in general. So this is just like a last-ditch effort, which is going to also fail, as many of their laws have recently. So I commend you for taking this action.
Thank you. Well, again, like I said earlier, you know, reach out to your assembly person, to your senator, ask them to oppose this, give them your opinion on it. You can go online. NICOM has a great, you know, recitation of the local law, of the state law, and their position on this, which is a great read. The law is available online, of course, for the senators and our representatives. I would reach out to them, get a copy of it from them, get them involved. This is disastrous. I mean, we could go on for half an hour about the pitfalls in this, but you know, it's just what really is infuriating. It's just another example of Albany not thinking something through. Just casting something down from Albany upon the town. You figure it out. Oh, and by the way, you can't adjust this, you can't adjust that, you can't charge for this, you can't charge for that. But figure it out and do what we want you to do, okay? It's bald, it's hollow, vapid. It needs to be thought through, it needs to be worked out so it can be something we can embrace, something you know, eventually affect its goal, which we have no problem with doing. We want to make sure we do that, but we can't in this manner. This is just ludicrous. Anyway, with all that being said, I'll make the motion for this particular resolution and to forward same to where it needs to go to all relevant parties, and ask for a second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Okay, that brings us to the Highway Department report. Mr. Latella.
Supervisor Colavita, members of the town board, I'd like to report we have had 9 snow and ice-related storms to date. Our crews have done a tremendous job in providing safe and passable roads for vehicle travel. Due to the fluctuation of temperatures and the melting and freezing of water that breaks apart our roadways and forms potholes, crews were dispatched to make these repairs to provide, again, safe travel on our roadways. The winter storms and winter weather have had a challenge at times on our equipment. Repairs and breakdowns have been addressed by the highway garage in an efficient and quick manner due to the upgrades of equipment and tools. This is vital in keeping our trucks on the road to provide our service to our residents. Thank you, Supervisor Colavita, members of the town board. I have nothing further to report.
Thank you. Okay, we have receiver of taxes report for the month of January. You can receive and file same. That brings us to correspondence. We have a memorandum from the controller on part-time seasonal employees. We just have 2 here in the police department. Anyone care to make a motion?
I'll move it.
All right. I'll second same. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next is a memorandum from the Superintendent of Highways regarding a proposal for the annual stormwater report for the year 21-22. And this is, in essence, is a proposal from Dolph Rotfeld Engineering, PC, to assist the town with its mandatory, another unfunded mandate from Albany, annual stormwater report for submittal to the New York State DEC. And the fee for this is $3,000. And we have, excuse me, engaged Mr. Rotfeld for the last probably 18 years doing this. And he has pooled all of our local municipal governments into one fund so that we can get economy of scale here. So this is for $3,000, and I will move this and ask for a second, please.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next is a memorandum from the Superintendent of Parks and Recreation regarding permission to go to bid for ground maintenance. This is for ground maintenance of town-owned property within the town of Eastchester. I will make a motion. Ask for a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Next, I have a memorandum from the Director of Building and Planning regarding the 2022 Westchester County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. This, in essence, is in order for us to be eligible for FEMA hazard mitigation assistance in the future, participating in this particular resolution, approving the plan and the resolution for FEMA in the region number 2 area is essential. So a copy of the resolution is prepared here, and of course, we wholeheartedly embrace this. So I would ask for a motion and a second, please.
I'll move it.
Thank you. Second? I'll second. Please call the roll.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Marcotte?
Aye.
Councilman Dooley?
Aye.
Councilman Marcotte?
Aye.
Supervisor Colavita?
Aye. Okay, there being no miscellaneous business, that moves us to council member reports. Councilman Marcotte?
Thank you, Supervisor. I have no report this evening.
Councilman Dooley?
Just another reminder that the St. Patrick's Day Parade is going to be on Sunday, March 13th, 3 p.m. So hopefully the weather improves, which it should by then, and we get everybody out there and support the parade. And just I'd like to also commend the Highway Department for all the great work that they've been doing with respect to the storms, the ice, the weather, and just doing the day-to-day work as well. So congratulations there. Thank you.
Councilwoman Nicholson?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone. I just have one announcement. There is a TPAC meeting next Tuesday, February 22nd at 7 p.m. at the community room. You're welcome to bring any comments or concerns of traffic and parking. That's all I have for this evening.
Councilman Marcotte?
Thank you, Supervisor. Just very briefly from the Park and Recreation Department, they still have some spots for their Bronco hoops basketball, which will be taking place on the February break next week. So if you're home next week and you want to play some basketball, you just have to sign up in advance, and you can do that on the town website, eastchester.org, under the Park and Rec section. And also keep an eye on that section, because they hope to have by the end of next week information about this summer camp coming up this summer. So that's exciting news. And then on the Bronxville front, just want to congratulate the Bronxville Movie House. They did their soft opening last week, and they are officially open for business. So that's a welcoming sign, another step towards normalcy as we emerge from this pandemic finally. That's my report, Supervisor. Thank you.
Thank you. For my own report, I'll be brief. I spoke for a long time earlier. Meeting with the people from Lord & Taylor, Hudson Bay Group, to go over the next iteration of their project. People are asking, hey, what's going on? What's with the scaffolding and the plastic and all of that? And they're simply introducing windows into the existing building. But we're going to be meeting with them and the planning department in Eastchester here, along with some technical people, to go over the ideas that they're putting forth for review by the town. That's happening next week. And that concludes my report, really. Second opportunity to address the board. Anyone? Yes, sir. Mr. Sweeney?
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the board. It's Frank Sweeney, 22 Lakeview Avenue, Scarsdale. I just want to share with you, I've reached out to Steve, by the way, Stephen, who is the chairman of the Cable Commission.
Oh,
We've had
Steve
some
Altamura.
and we've had some dialogue, and it's been a good experience in terms of sharing some ideas and thoughts. But I want to share an experience I had this afternoon. I currently have Optimum cable vision for my home. I theoretically called Verizon with the opportunity to see if I could upgrade to a faster, bigger cable. Well, after 3 hours, I got a little turned off. They put the responsibility. They'll deliver the cable, no question about it, right to the house. I'll come tomorrow. But I have 3 sets of cables hanging on my wire right now on my house. You know what their position was? Call up your 3 providers and have them come disconnected.
Wait, what'd you say? Say again?
Yeah.
Let's repeat. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, I have 3 cables in my house now.
Right. And they said,
They said, get your cable other companies in here and disconnect it.
get the other cable companies in.
Other, yeah. So you think we have a cable problem now? God forbid if a homeowner wants to take the cable out and go with a new service. We now have to have someone from Verizon come in and install it. I have to have someone come in to deinstall the other service. And now all of a sudden, I am left with no service between the 2 contractors, if I can get them there both at the same time. This is a night where more concerned about cabling than anything else. My concern is that we, under the current contract that we have with Verizon and Optima, do we have any alternative for them to step up and address the photos that we sent it to them? And are they going to do anything about it before we enter into a new contract? Because if we get down to the new contract piece, this is going to be far worse than what we have right now, in my opinion. This is actual real life stuff, today's events. That doesn't make me feel very good. I've had people stop me a half a dozen times in the last week. Frank, please stop over. I got cable laying at the top of the telephone pole.
You should start a business.
I'm the cable man.
Get a ladder and a snip.
I'm the cable man.
You make a
but
fortune.
The idea is that it doesn't need to be.
Of course.
It doesn't need to be. So if they've refused to step up currently, and we're going to wait for the new contract to roll in, it's too late. It's too late. So all I'm asking for is there anything in the current positioning of the 2 cable companies that we have now to say, hey, listen, we're going to get some people out there to address the dangling cables, the cut cables, the ones that people don't want anymore, and get them squared away. And I don't see that happening in short term.
Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cough. There is nothing in the agreement that I know of that requires them to do that. Mr. Latella, who's here, has been reaching out to them with the documentation you've provided them. And they've come sporadically to remove move the wires from poles. But their expression to him was, it's a low priority for them. That's why, when we're doing our agreement, we don't want this agreement to be consummated until we have some protections in there on exactly what you're speaking about. But the process takes a little bit of time.
I agree with the process. I can handle the process. The thing I can't handle is that
Excuse me.
it's been quite some period of time. And if we're not going to get to a bottom line here, then I think we should hire a consultant and bring the consultant in and let him, with a CA manager's trip, present it to both Verizon and Altice and say, this is what we have. This is the situation we have on our hands. We don't want new stuff coming in here and then worrying about reconnecting or disconnecting anything we have. It's a nightmare going to happen. It's worse than what you see on the streets now. I don't want those cables on my home, very honestly. So I'm not going to have to attempt to put 3 vendors together at the same time to make this thing work. That doesn't sound good to me. And I think if we go about it in terms of the waiting for the contract to be renewed, the horse is already out of the barn.
No, not really.
It's the leverage. That is the leverage to get it accomplished.
You're
And I'm-
lucky we're
right.
renewing now. Otherwise, we wouldn't have much control over it.
Right. And I know Mr. Altamira...
This wasn't a problem 20 years ago. I'm sorry, Sheila.
Right, no. And you are right. But I know if you've been having conversations with Mr. Altamira, he's keenly aware that that is a sticking point of the supervisors, of the town attorney. It's been memorialized in emails and writings, et cetera. The key here is you have to get through one contract before you can go to the next contract. But the beauty of that is you can use the first contract for the second, because the cable, the FCC communication laws, the next contract has to be equal to or better. You follow? So the challenge is to get it into the first, and then it's sort of easy thereafter. But it's no different than the process that we did 15 years ago, where we sat down with Cablevision first. I think or was it Verizon? I don't even remember.
Yeah, Optimum.
It was Optimum first. Once we had that accomplished, it was easy going forward with Verizon, because it was a perfect template. They could only do better than what we had just done, and the process is very similar. 15 years later, issues might be a little different, but the process is the same, and it's going to take some time.
Well, I would recommend that if we're moving into the contract negotiation phase, is that we have a standard contract in terms of the capabilities of what we want, not what they want, what we want. And based off that requirement statement, we have an acceptability of what we will accept. But going into this, just negotiating cables, that's far down the line. You've got to set the requirements. And I'm assuming that somewhere in the state, whether it be Bonci or anybody else that has done this type of contracting, for the services, there's got to be a dozen contracts out there that include these types of things. We don't have to renegotiate the whole thing. But I'm sure there's towns and villages that have negotiated this, not maybe to the level that we want it, but the idea is that clearly we're not going to let them get away with it.
I know, but Frank, you have to understand, we're doing what you're asking right now. In other words, this is happening now. It's not like we're not doing this. We recognize your issue.
I'm not questioning that
It's
you're
an
not
issue
doing
for
it.
us, too.
What I'm questioning is whether we're going to get it resolved in terms of something that's
course.
reasonable to all of us.
Sure.
And I don't get that warm feeling.
No.
That's my opinion, and appreciate your help. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, there being no one else, I'm okay to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll move it.
All in favor?
All right?
Aye.
Thank you.